Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another session of of the home we've never left. And so we have again today a format that you guys have gotten used to with us, with Lucy and I together. And sometimes the format goes back and forth. Today, it feels like it's going to be a little bit more of to say to leading in with a monologue. And then there's going to be questions, expansions, anything like that that Lucy feels will apply and be helpful to the session once we reach a certain point. So I don't believe, Lucy, that you have anything before we get started that you want to add, correct? Okay.
Correct.
All right. All right. So um, we'll get to it then. So I'll take a moment and it's interesting because I've been playing with the idea of how I want to refer to say to in a way that's not quite so formal. And so the idea of Chuck Sr. and Chuck Jr. kind of popped in the other day, because of course, you know what this is it's about us all expanding into those aspects of ourselves, becoming increasingly aware of, what we are. And so yeah. So anyway, we'll have Chuck Sr. on stage in a little while here, we'll say. So yeah. So we would take the opportunity to greet all of you once again. And as we frequently do, to express our appreciation for your participation today, because of course it adds quite a bit to our experience of our exploration of reality as well. So there's a direction that we're going to take today that those of you who embrace your life in a more emotional way may connect to in a way that's a little stronger than perhaps some of the things that we've expressed previously. But to kind of set that up, there's an expression that we would like to make. So you may or may not be aware that this transition phase of yours, this shift of yours, has been going on since your 1900s came in. So approximately 125 years. And something that we mentioned a very short time ago is your penchant as a race to use markers in time symbolically to aid you in moving into certain directions. And so this is something that you will take advantage of in the next 4 and 5 months. Because not only do you pay attention to the passage of decades and of centuries, but certain delineations of those centuries, and one of those being a quarter of a century. And so what you have now is you have the first quarter of this century coming to a close and the next one opening up. And you will find that you will use that, as you do with many things in time, to allow yourself an enhancement in your movement. And in fact, this enhancement in your movement is something that's intensifying, increasing, and in that regard, in a gentle way, asking more of you, shall we say. So, most of you, if not all of you, are familiar with what you call plays. And in plays, you have acts, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, depending on the length of the play. Now, historically, previously, in those terms for all of you, you have been familiar with you in an act, in one of those acts. And it seemed like you did not have access to the rest of the play. And it seemed like that one act was all that was put in front of you. That one act, of course, being a physical life from your birth through what you call your death in that life and all the things that occurred within it. And those things were relatively constrained, maybe too firm of a word, but we'll use it in this moment. And you found that those around you live their lives quite similar to how you lived your life as well. Now, of course, in your 1900s, you changed much of this. You went from lives where people lived lives that were very, very similar to adding quite a bit of diversity to your lives. So that individuals by the end of your 1900s were expressing themselves in quite diverse ways. And of course, you increased that as you moved into your 2000s. And so now what's gone on is the director of the play, which of course is in fact you. We could say the more encompassing you, the wider you, the deeper you, whatever term you would like to use, has dropped the entirety of the play in front of you. And you have the ability now to look through all the various acts of that play and choose if you would like to participate in those acts or not. And so we're going to suggest, and of course there are many ways to do this, but we are going to suggest that one of the ways of, and perhaps we'll express it in this way in this moment, of unlocking each of those acts is through approaching your existence with tenderness and with sweetness and with lovingness, with those gentle and kind emotions. So in that, you want to direct those emotions initially, of course, to yourself. Because as you're familiar, you're creating your experience of your reality. So to direct those emotions to yourself sets a tone, shall we say, of your reality. It also makes a statement. And the statement that it makes is that you trust in your reality. And because you trust in your reality, you can trust in your reality being a tender reality, being a loving reality, being a reality that's filled with sweetness, with pleasure, with a joyfulness, with an exuberance, with an inspiration. To look around you and to enjoy your reality, all parts of it, knowing that you bring your reality to you now to have fun with your reality, to explore your reality in perhaps what we'll call a pleasant way. Now, if in fact your reality is not that in this moment, one of the things that you want to make sure you don't do is not to judge yourself in that you have challenges in your reality in this moment. Simply choose those perhaps small parts in your life where you can begin to apply these types of feeling states in your life. And again, primarily with you. One of the things that you can do, and it actually has a great degree of potency, and Chuck Jr., since this is the theme today, had this experience several weeks ago where in their workplace, as he inquired of an individual how their day was, they said it was fabulous. And he thought, well, isn't that a fantastic energy to apply to my moments? And so from that point forward, when it was inquired of him how his day was, he said it was fabulous. And of course, each person reacted positively to that statement. And it changed the energy of Chuck, it changed the energy of the day. And so these types of simple expressions within your life will actually make a difference in the energy of your life. They will provide for you doorways, shall we say, that now include more choices than what were available to you moments before. Now, you may not be used to using that kind of language about your life. And you may look at your life and you may say, in a logical, intellectual way, how can I possibly say that about my life? But again, what we will suggest to you is that in doing that and in allowing even a little bit of change in your energy, your life, in fact, will shift. It will become something different because your life flows from you. It is not something that shows up around you, of course, that then you have to endure. It flows from you. And so you changing your approach to your life, you changing, in fact, your approach to yourself is what it is that will alter and shift and move your life. Now, this will be increasingly important for all of you because, as we mentioned earlier, you are moving with increased momentum in this transition of yours. In that, energy, your energy, the energy of all of consciousness, the energy of the collective you, is never static, is always in motion. And so if there's movement, if there are things within you that you feel that you would like to do, if there are things within you, ways that you would like to express yourself and you don't, that energy is not going to wait. It's going to be expressed. And it will be expressed in ways that might be a little challenging for you. Perhaps it shows up in your body in a challenging way. Perhaps it shows up in your relationships in a challenging way. Perhaps it shows up in things around your home in a challenging way. Perhaps it shows up in things about your automobile in a challenging way, whatever it might happen to be. Because again, your reality is there in this time period specifically to get your attention, to help you to look back in one direction, which is you. Are you choosing the things that you would like to choose? Are you moving in the directions that you would like to move? And if you are not, to become aware of why you are not doing that, and then to take steps to move in different directions for yourself. The energy that you provide to yourself, the energy that you provide to your movements will only increase as the weeks and the months and the years go by. So if you are resisting moving into those areas that you can feel within yourself you would like to move into, you will find that that more encompassing you, whatever you would like to call it, will urge you to move in that direction in a more strong way. So you have the opportunity when you first begin to feel those things to say to yourself, there's something here, some way here that I'm not paying attention, that I'm not being authentic with myself possibly, and what it is I would actually like to do right now, and what choice I would actually like to make right now. And then move in the directions where you can do that. Now, we understand that in certain circumstances, some of those choices may be difficult choices. You may have to leave situations, you may have to leave behind individuals as you make those choices. But if you look around, and what will happen as you do that as well, is you will start to bring people in your life that they may not be people that you'll become close with, but they'll become people that will provide information with you, such as how their life went through changes and how it blossomed for them. So you'll get to see that these things will in fact happen for you. So in this time period, as you move from 2025 to 2026, you will use again this landmark, this opportunity, this point in time to bring yourself even more momentum in your movement. These are the things that you like to do with time, with these markers that you put in time. Now, of course, this won't happen in noticeable ways for all individuals. But if you are paying attention, if you are viewing this particular broadcast, then you are of that type of a mindset. And so you can count on these things occurring for you and with you because you're already involved in this movement of yourself in a very tangible, noticeable way, shall we say. So In that, we will say that that is what we will share in the beginning. And we'll see if our good buddy, in terms of physical time, halfway around the planet, has any comments, any questions, any things they would like to have expanded upon.
Well, you've said so much that's beautiful here. I love unlocking the entire play that's dropped before us through tenderness. That's beautiful and often the opposite of what we do. So thank you for the reminder to go into tenderness. I also love this notion of answering the question, how are you, with the word fabulous, because there is truth in that. If you look to the aspects of one's life that are fabulous, you can always find them. So it is honest. Some people would say it's being in a state of denial or repressing an awareness of all that needs our attention to change. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
So, we have in the past, in this format, spoken a little bit about the idea of attention. Attention being you. So, those practical ways of looking at life mean that what you're doing is you're pointing your attention in a particular place. It's as if you're standing in a room with a number of doors and you choose to open one door and look in that room. There's another door right next door, but you don't see it because your attention is on the door that you've opened. All you need to do is to take a step back, turn your attention to the other door, open that door, and see what's in that room. When you see what's in that room, then it's additive and it may actually give you a choice. It may be two rooms, perhaps there are two bedrooms. One of the bedrooms has small windows in it. It's faced away from the sun. The other bedroom has very large windows in it. It's faced to the sun. You love the sun. It's much more colorful. It's a way that's set up that you enjoy more. And so it really depends on where you put your attention, because this is what is key in understanding the way that you create your reality. And so you can put your attention on these, we'll say, more practical things, or you can put your attention in a different way and begin to feel the effects of how that actually does change your life. But it takes doing that. You will never know it unless you do it. If you sit in your chair in your home day after day after day, and you think and you desire, and perhaps you imagine a little bit about traveling in various parts of the planet, that's all well and good. But until you go out and you begin to do that, you don't really know what that's going to be about. And you don't really give yourself the opportunity to have the experiences that that will then bring into your life. You have to take the actions, you have to do those things within this reality in those ways in order to have those experiences. So, this is true with this also. Now, understand that when you choose to create your life in a particular way, when you choose then the filters in your reality, the beliefs in your reality to apply to your life, you will see little to contradict what you've chosen. Your life will show you that it needs to be approached in a practical way, in a logical, rational way, because that's what you're choosing. You need to at least begin to explore other options. And then those events and circumstances and energies and openings will begin to come into your life. And so by doing something like that, how is my life? It's fabulous. That's what that does. It opens a little crack in the practical nature of your life and allows some things to flow in. And if you want, you can be aware of those things. And then you can go down that road and begin to explore that thing. And little by little, and sometimes in larger steps, your life will begin to reflect that. And now you've opened the door into the second room. Will you choose to walk into it? Will you choose to dwell in it? What will you choose to do with it? But it provides at least an opportunity for you to be able to do that.
Did I hear you say just now that if I focus on the things that aren't working, the areas that feel stuck, though I will have more and more evidence that that's the right thing to do. to keep focusing on those things. But
Indeed,
it's
you will have people that will come into your life that will express themselves like you do. You will see events in your world that corroborate the way that you look at your life. Because again, if you understand that, if you understand the power that you have, the ability that you have, if you have some idea that in fact you are the one that's creating your experience of reality and how you do it in this reality, this is why understanding what we and others have called the mechanisms of consciousness is an important thing to be able to understand, because there is a way that you configure consciousness as you find yourself within this dimension. These concepts, these ideas called beliefs are one of these. And so if you're choosing through how you want to put your attention, again, this is a choice that you made. Now, have you been influenced? Yes, you've been influenced. But you come in this reality knowing that you will be influenced. But you have other things around you that give you opportunities to focus your attention in different ways. But yes, if you've chosen a theme and if you believe in that theme, most of what's in your life will not contradict that theme. There will be other things in your life that will. They're out there. And if you choose to turn your direction in that way and look at those things, you can be walking down the street and perhaps there's somebody sitting on a bench next to you and they're playing a very lovely song, but your mind is in a particular direction. You could pause and listen to that song and it can begin to have an effect on you. And then perhaps you hear a conversation of two people walking by and they're laughing and they're talking about some wonderful thing that happened in their life. And then the clouds in the sky part and the sun comes out and you begin to hear birds sing, right? And little by little, your environment begins to show you and begins to express itself in the way that now you're putting your attention into. And your life can more and more be that. If you give your life that opportunity, you will find that in fact it will do that. And something as simple as making that type of a statement about your life can be something that opens those doors for you.
sometimes it feels like one is stuck in the problem, and they might have those moments, those glimpses of the sun or the song, and then there's a sensation of being pulled back. What is that?
That is so. As you become familiar with the information that's being shared on your planet in the last possibly 50 years or so by individuals like ourselves and others that are beginning to share with you ideas about a reality that is actually your reality, but it is different than what you've experienced historically in time. So, as part of that, something to understand about your beingness is that there are, perhaps we'll phrase them in this moment, versions. There are many versions of you, many versions of you that you're expressing from this larger you in any particular moment. Now, a large number of those versions, not larger than other versions, but a large number of those versions are experiencing existence that is very challenging also. And so when you are in the midst of a challenging life and you have these openings, the automatic way, perhaps we'll say in this moment, that you put your attention is towards all these other aspects of that immense you that are also living a challenging life. So that energy is close. It's an energy that you recognize. It's an energy that you're familiar with, right? It's like somebody who's lived in a particular climate all of their life, and then they move to it or they vacation in another climate. And because they're so used to this other climate, it takes them a number of days to get used to the fact that the weather is going to be different than the weather they have in their one climate, right? Because they're so very used to that weather. It's raining, it's dreary day after day after day after day after day. They go someplace else, they wake up, and they expect to open the window, the shades, and to see this dreary, rainy day. It may take them a few days, right? So it's the same thing when you attempt to make movement. You have this conditioning, you have this connection that's going on, and you have to begin to feed the other direction. You have to be able to point yourself in the energy. And so you need to, in the beginning stages especially, to do things intentionally. It's like if you want to begin a workout program or you want to learn to play an instrument or something like that, you have to intentionally for a while begin to make those movements until after a certain length of time, they become automatic for you. And then it's a little smoother. Now, that energy and that movement has become the one that you're more familiar with or becoming familiar with. And your life then begins to change. There's a flow that's behind it then, and you don't have to put intentionally quite so much effort behind it any longer. It now starts to become part of who you are, the new you. So, yes.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And I think you've said in the past as well that one can ask for help.
Indeed. And in fact, we, as well as others, have mentioned that you are, of course, surrounded with all of you continuously. And there is help every single moment, actually. Every moment. One of the things that you'll become aware of within this transition of who and what you are is you'll become aware of all the information that surrounds you all the time. And it's always actually there. You always actually have the opportunity to tie in to whether it's your own personal helpful information or whether it's, shall we say, friends of yours that are around you. And those individuals have taken up different names in different time periods that are also doing that with you. So, yes, and it's a simple inquiry. It doesn't need to be complicated at all. And you can do it at any time. Just say yes, that, and that guidance will be provided. The key really is this. The key is then to pay attention and to act on what it is that's applied to you, right? Now, it doesn't mean that they'll stop doing that, but if a little impression shows up for you about, and it may not necessarily have anything to do with the issue at hand, it may be a way to begin to open the door to those energies, right? So as you get little impulses to do things, as you get little impressions, which are little bits of information, not long, like let's say a full intuitional thing is, but something smaller that gives you a little idea about something, right? If you begin to act on those things, a little feeling that, oh, I should do this, a gut feeling, a little urge, whatever you might say, as you begin to act on those things, what you're doing is you're kind of opening the door to that flow as well. And so that flow becomes more and more consistent, becomes stronger, the information comes in larger chunks, and things start to move as you take advantage of those things as well. So, yes, those things will in fact become part of your expression as you do that. But again, it is a intentional thing. It is an experience of noticing perhaps the things that maybe you weren't noticing so much before and paying attention to those things. Kind of widening what it is that's part of your mental reality and maybe your feeling state reality as well.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I'm wondering if you would like to say anything about embracing boundlessness.
Indeed. So, boundlessness is, of course, your natural state. You are, as many have said, infinite. You are limitless. You know no limitations. You are free to create in your, we'll call it in this moment, natural state. Not that this is not natural, but you have an experience here of one that has seeming limitations. You are, of course, without limitations. You are much more than you can even imagine that you are right now. And so embracing that that actually is you and allowing that to show up in your life in the ways that it will show up in your life is a practice that can be quite fun for you, actually, because you never know how it's going to show up for you. Each individual, of course, is a unique individual. Each individual is here to live a life that not only fulfills them, but fulfills all of you together. And others have said this, and we'll repeat this in the moment. And it's when you live a life that seems authentic to you that in fact you not only fulfill your own desires in this existence, but you fulfill all of our collective desires together. Okay. It seems like, from this perspective, from a physical perspective, that those are maybe separated, disparate things, but they are not, because there's a unity of flow that happens within consciousness, and an awareness that is a pervasive awareness that happens immediately on how, as each individual expresses themselves in the way that fulfills them, it also fulfills all of consciousness, which really is a simple thing, because as an expression of consciousness, you love to do one thing more than anything else, and that is to experience yourself as you create, and to do it in ways that are a little bit different than what you've done before. And typically, this is through perspective. You allow yourself to take different perspectives on expressions that are there. If you think about, let's say, a small pond, and there's a few benches around this pond, and this pond has a few types of birds that are flying around it. They maybe have some things that are floating on the surface. There's some water plants that are growing there. There's whatever it might happen to be that's going on with this pond. You can use your imagination in this moment. Each individual that happens upon that pond has a different way of looking at that pond. They have a different experience of that pond. What that is consciousness. One expression of energy, shall we say, being experienced many, 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 many different ways, because the perceiver, we'll use that word in this moment, is different. They have a different way of perceiving, again, their experience of their reality. And so you do this eternally. So yes, so a great deal of fun, actually.
Yes, and so let's talk about the word embracing. You've talked about boundlessness.
So earlier we spoke a little bit about an individual that perhaps would begin a exercise program, or perhaps begin learning to play an instrument. And as you move into that, you will reach a point, if you're going to continue, where you become enthusiastic about whatever that exploration is. And it now becomes part of who and what you are. At that moment, you've embraced it. You've made it part of who you are. And you move into that with an exploratory nature, right? You want to explore all the various facets of it. You want to add that to your existence. You're fully embracing it now, because it's going to, at some place, within yourself, add to your experience of your existence in a way that your existence was before that not going to experience. Now, that doesn't mean that your existence can't be experienced in many, many different ways, and it's not. But this is one that's going to be exciting for you. This is one that's going to be fun for you. So you embrace it. Yes, it becomes who you are. So again, with the idea of embracing boundlessness, when you embrace boundlessness as who you are, that exploration as who you are, because in fact, that is who you are, is a personality, perhaps we'll say it that way in this moment, that embraces all ways that they can explore themselves. And all those ways are, in fact, just that. They are infinite. They are without limit. They are boundless in that regard. There is, in fact, nothing that you can't explore. Now, in this venue, we mean this particular physical dimension, you've chosen to explore yourself in particular ways. But also at this time period, especially as you move into this shifting period of yours, and as this shifting period of yours comes to a close, shall we say, right? And this will be different times for different individuals. You will find that that idea of boundlessness will apply to you in a much more, shall we say, tangible manner than it does right now, because your ability to move through all the various experiences of consciousness from this type of a perspective will be much, much broadened. It will be something that you will enjoy immensely. Your exploration of who and what you are will take on qualities that at this point are quite difficult even to imagine. You will enjoy it very much. You will enjoy your exploration very much.
What are some examples of those qualities?
For instance, right now, most individuals on your planet see this action that you call death as a finality, a time period where, and it depends on what your belief systems are, but a time period where the individuals who are still on the planet no longer have the ability to connect with those individuals who move past what's going on the planet. Now, many cultures have an understanding that when you leave this experience, there's like a in-between experience that happens, a transition experience that happens, where what you do is you become familiar. We could use the word slowly, perhaps we'll use the word gently, with who you actually are, where you leave behind the beliefs that you utilized here and you become once again familiar with that larger you. Once you've done this shift, you will move freely into that area. You'll be able to explore that area any way you want to. You have these ideas in your reality now of dreams and all the various things that you can do in this venue that many of you call dream time. You'll be able to move freely into that area as well, which in fact is your home turf, shall we say, anyway. Within consciousness, you, and we're going to express it this way in this moment, you create areas, perhaps we'll say, areas delineated by themes and ideas. So not necessarily a physical type of an area as you may think of it, but more an idea or a theme. So you create many ideas and themes that you express, and as what you call now dimensions. So you have this physical dimension. You have particular ideas that are played out within particular areas of consciousness, perhaps we'll say. You will have the freedom to explore a whole number of dimensions now once you do that. And you'll be able to do it with a knowing way. You'll be able to do it understanding how to move into those dimensions. You'll be able to do it understanding the dimensions and the way that things are expressed there, the physics that they're expressed there, the languages that are expressed there, all the things that are expressed there, because you will have at your fingertips, shall we say, much more of the awareness of that infinite you. You'll be able to do this. Now, understand that those of you that participate in this dimension as part of your exploration of this dimension, you have chose this movement. You have chose this expansion. That does not mean that that particular movement is going to happen in all dimensions. So what you may find, in fact, is individuals, depending on the dimension that they reside in those ways of saying things, who had perhaps a little bit more awareness of things than you do, you will find that now you've moved to a place where you're aiding them in their exploration of existence because you've chosen to widen your awareness of who and what you are in quite an expansive way. Now, there are all sorts of ways that you as consciousness does this. There are other physical dimensions where they haven't chosen to do this at all, because all things really are an exploration of your ability to create and experience what it is that you're creating. None of them are better, none of them are worse than the other ones are. They're only different than the other ones are. This is what you, all of you collectively, have chosen to do, to have this type of movement. Your dimension has chosen this. Other dimensions have not. Now, other dimensions may already be in that place, and they're here, viewing, helping, all of those things. Some are a little ahead. You may find yourself again being ahead of them when you're done with this. So there's going to be all sorts of mixing and matching that happens as all of you move to what we may call in this moment the closure of this shift of yours, where all of you have moved and done this. So
By
yes,
being, I'm sorry, I apologize. Keep going.
no, go ahead, please.
When you say by being ahead of someone else, you mean more awake to the boundlessness of what
Yes,
we
and
really.
that is your language, of course. And so ahead, yes. So in other words, you may be interacting with individuals now who have um, a particular expanded understanding and who what they are. You may find yourself at that point, once again, you have moved to the completion of this shift of yours, having a more encompassing understanding of things than they have in that moment. And so in that moment, there will be more than likely, and by that we mean because you have a connection, a role reversal, shall we say, where now you will be the mentors of those individuals. Now, they may also be at a point where they understand that they are interacting with two versions of you at the same moment. This version of you, shall we say, pre shift, and the version of you that is post shift. It really depends on the individuals that you are speaking of in the moment. So, yes, there are many, many, many types of interactions that are going on. And it is, in fact, once again, to use the idea of attention, where does you place your attention as far as which of those plays you're familiar with in that moment? It's almost like you have playhouses side by side by side by side, and which one are you going to walk into and experience?
Beautiful. Are there any final remarks you'd like to make?
Really, just to remind you that, especially in these time periods, being true to yourself, being authentic with yourself, being transparent with yourself becomes an increasingly important thing because it's about making the choices that you actually want to make for the reasons that you want to make those choices. And if you're not making those choices, perhaps understand why it is that you're not making those choices. And then in that understanding, to move into a motion where you can leave those, perhaps we'll say, inhibiting things behind and allow yourself to do just that, to move in the direction that you want to. Because this is the movement that you have going on right now, to move into an understanding of who you are, an embracing of your freedom to create. You will not settle any longer for living a life that is contained. Less and less and less and less will you be satisfied with that. And you will begin, you've already begun, you will increase the messages that you've given to yourself and are giving to yourself about being, in a way, unsatisfied with the way you're expressing yourself right now because you want to express yourself in freedom. You want to express yourself in creativity. You want to express yourself as how you want to express yourself. And so we would say, embrace that as much as you can, pay attention to that, attempt to make changes that move you in that direction. And it'll end up expressing itself as a life that's funner for you, easier for you, flows nicer for you, contains less challenging in that regard. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with challenge. Of course, it's part of your experience also, but it's not necessary either in that regard in a way that you consider it to be difficult. It can be something else, it can be expressed in a different way. So, we would say that actually as we leave.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It is, as always, a great pleasure not only to have you and your interaction once again, but to connect with everybody in the way that we love to do.